This is plain old table salt, and although it tastes salty and can put out a flame, I'm glad you agree that it's boring. So one day, now hear me out, I had an idea that you're definitely gonna like. What if I make dangerous fuming hydrochloric acid from salt in my garage? I mean, that's why you clicked, right? Now, please don't DIY this because you're not Walter, but also because fuming HCl can actually burn your eyes, skin, lungs, your soul. Look, I'm a professional, alright? I think. Okay, this is a pretty intense video using a different method, and things didn't really go to plan, but I'm taking you with me anyways. Unfortunately, none of the chemicals are edible in this video, other than the table salt maybe, and please don't replicate this. Step 1. Setting up the reaction vessel. Now the first step is to grab a 1 liter round bottom flask, and honestly, I actually have a really strong emotional attachment to this flask. We've been through a lot together, and when this breaks, I will too. As Carbon-12 viewers, y'all know it's not a question of if, but when. Okay, I know it's not that deep, but we are going to have a special guest in step 3. Next, you're gonna have to measure out your table salt, which I did with my trusty electronic balance, or scale. I still don't know the difference between the two. Anyways, sorry for spilling a bit of the salt, but I think I used around 170 grams. This was then transferred into our round bottom flask with a glass funnel to help guide all the salt in without spilling. Now this is often overlooked, but a bit of water was also transferred in just to help with the reaction. I think this was a bit too much water though, so I removed some of it off camera later. Alright, now let's get to the next part. Step 2, the tubing part. Now my plan for this reaction is to react the table salt, which is sodium chloride, with sulfuric acid. Because sulfuric acid is really strong, meaning it will favorably throw a proton onto our chloride to form the HCl. People have also done it with bisulfate, but I want to use sulfuric acid for my reaction, just to flex on the Europeans. I know this table salt contains micrograms of iodide, but I wanted to stick with the plan and not use like ACS grade sodium chloride from Sigma Aldrich, because I mean that doesn't really count as table salt. The iodide impurity should also be quite negligible, as it won't be affecting our reaction too much. It would simply be oxidized into its elemental form and mostly stay dissolved in the reaction vessel, hopefully. Some sulfur dioxide might form too, but this is really minimal. HCl is normally a gas at room temperature, meaning as it forms in our reaction vessel, it's going to have to be collected and dissolved in water to form our fuming HCl, all in a fully airtight system. Breathing this stuff in feels really painful, like you will question your life choices, trust me. Okay, TLDR, this means I'm going to have to use stoppers and tubing without any leaks. And although I have rubber ones, annoyingly, they don't have holes to feed the tubes into. Now this was one of my worst experiences ever, because I tried so many ways. And I mean drilling, burning, cutting, prying. I know you're probably laughing at me right now, but it was even worse in my benzene video. The rubber just kept on crumbling, and I'm not a crafter or fix-it person, so I ended up just wrapping the tube in a bunch of Teflon tape. I know, this was the dumbest thing ever. Anyways, if it works, it works. You'll see it won't in a few steps though, so. Alright, now luckily, I do have some gas adapters for the other two connections, so I guess we're good. Step 3, making the setup. Now here's where our special guest comes in. Remember this old guy? Yep, my old hot plate. But the heat doesn't work unfortunately, only the stirrer. What's funny is some guy actually pointed out to me when I made a post about it that this was actually made in 1976, so I don't really blame it for dying. Now you might be asking, why do you even need this second one? And that's a fair question, because this is going to require a pretty massive setup, and we'll be needing this for the stirring of the ice bath. Bringing back our reaction vessel filled with the watery sodium chloride, I put it on top of the fully functioning hot plate stirrer, and to the right neck, our Teflon brick connected to the tubing was attached on. To the middle, a 250ml pressure equalized addition funnel was inserted, and the leftmost neck was just stoppered. Some keck clips were also put on, because why not? Next, this is an important addition to the setup, but a 2-necked 500ml round bottom flask was then attached to the middle. This is because often, in these pressurized systems when the produced gas is suddenly stopped and the system cools, backflow occurs, and you don't want our collected HCl to flow back into the reaction vessel. This can also prevent any overflow from the reaction flask. After attaching on the two gas adapters, the final tube will be connected to our water, and it will be bubbling HCl vapor into it. But we're not just going to dip it in the water. It also has to be ice cold water, as the cooler the solution, the more HCl can be dissolved. So this beaker will serve as our stirred ice bath for the actual solution, which will be in a round bottom flask. Look at this stir bar go! Anyways, I got a good amount of ice for this ice bath and tried crushing it up, but it wasn't nice, so I just quit midway. Don't worry, they all got into the beaker though, and I topped it off with a good amount of water. In the round bottom flask, around 120 ml of distilled water was added in, so the total HCl produced can theoretically saturate it fully. It was then submerged into the ice bath. I like how the spout also acts as the perfect spot for the neck to lean on. The tubing was finally cut to the desired length and dipped into the round bottom flask. I heard it's good practice to have ice baths stirred because otherwise localized heating could actually cause cooling to be ineffective. The round bottom flask itself, our collection flask, also has a little stirrer inside, and this 1976 hot plate is actually really good at stirring. It has really strong magnetic capabilities, so even at this distance it still stirs it pretty well. Step 4. Apologizing to the Europeans. Now earlier I have to say I was a little mean, so to the lads in Europe, sorry. What I'm meaning to say is that this reaction will require sulfuric acid, so it might not be possible on your side. The last step will be to fill up our addition funnel with around 225 ml of 98% sulfuric acid, and you can see me doing it here. Really, be careful as it's suspended pretty high up, and getting this in contact with your eyes and skin would be permanently damaging. My sulfuric is a little yellow though, but don't tell anyone because some Australian guy might come for me. Now finally, the setup is looking pretty fire and we can start the reaction now. What's also fire is how my hourly wage of $1.13 have now been slightly improved, with the sponsor of this video, Brilliant. Brilliant is, well, a brilliant online platform that helps you learn a vast variety of concepts, and I mean anything you could think of, from the STEM area. Brilliant helps you excel in math and computer science, with visual, interactive problem solving and personalized practice. I've been using Brilliant for a couple of years now, and I have to say, it really unlocked a new and innovative way of learning for me. You can move around the graphs, turn gears, and it makes you a better thinker through this process, a method proven to be 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. Honestly, I know I've had a lot of fun solving circuits myself. You can also reach serious personalized goals, with step-by-step lessons, problems, and motivating challenges that help you reach a level of competency you wouldn't have imagined achieving, one day at a time. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/carbon12, scan the QR code on screen, or click on the link in the description. Brilliant has also given Carbon 12 viewers, you guys, 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. So thank you, and now let's get back to the HCl. Step 5. Reacting. Now this is where it really gets fun. To get started, our 98% sulfuric acid was slowly dripped in, and immediately the flask filled with a dense white vapor. This is HCl gas being formed when the acid reacts with the salt, and the vapor is white because the HCl is reacting with the moisture of the air inside the flask to form like an aqueous solution, like droplets. It also quickly fills the intermediate round bottom flask, and in our collection flask, a bunch of bubbles are pushed into the water, along with some white HCl vapor leaking out. I know that the bubbles are just the residual air in the system being forced out, but I'm not entirely sure why the HCl didn't dissolve at the start. Anyways, I kept the sulfuric acid dripping at a constant rate of about like a drop or 2 per second, and after a minute or so, no more leaking fumes at the collection flask were observed. The HCl was being dissolved pretty well. You can also see why I chose to use a 1 liter round bottom flask for this, even though a 500 ml one would have sufficed, because of the excessive foaming that occurs when the reaction produces HCl gas in solution. This will be another issue that we're going to have to run into later, lol. An issue right now is the Teflon brick though. I realized that somehow, and don't ask me why, it's still leaking HCl, which is incredibly frustrating. So I unfortunately had to tinker around and tape that thing shut for like a solid 5 minutes. I'll save you the details. Now, it's been 15 minutes or so, and wiping off the condensation on the ice bath, you can really see how the bubbles are being pushed into or dissolved into water. Minimal residual bubbles are left because most of the air has left the system now, and it's almost all HCl gas dissolving. What's also really cool is to see the density difference when a more concentrated HCl solution meets a more dilute one, and these turbulent currents at their boundary. Now back in the reaction vessel, it does look a little yellow due to elemental iodine forming, as predicted, but this won't come over as I believe it will stay mostly dissolved in the flask. After a few more minutes, the reaction vessel has now turned into a brown expanding foamy cake, almost like when you're baking. The sulfuric acid was continually dripped, I think over a period of around 1 hour. Whenever the ice melts, I also made sure to fill the ice bath back up to keep the HCl solution cool so more can dissolve. Decreasing the temperature will allow more gas to dissolve, and intuitively this makes sense. When you increase the temperature, more volatile gas particles in the liquid gain enough energy to break free, escaping the solution. What's also pretty interesting is how the volume of the HCl solution increased a lot over time. This proves how gases also contribute to the volume of a solution. In the end, you'll see the net gain, which is honestly pretty surprising. Okay, now the increasing foam in the reaction vessel was making me a bit uneasy, because I feel like it's going to fill up the whole thing. Oh, okay, yeah, it did overflow. But luckily, the 500ml round bottom flask caught it. See, I told you this would be useful. Now by then, the reaction had also finished, and it seemed like no more HCl was dissolving, meaning our solution was saturated at that cold temperature. This is perfect because that means when you bring it back to room temperature, gas will start being pushed out of the solution even more, hence the name fuming. Here, I'm going to show you something that you should probably never do without proper ventilation, removing the tube from the solution. You can see just how much HCl is being formed, and you really don't want this in your lungs. In fact, look at how much gas is released during the disassembly of the setup. Absolute madness. Step 6. Testing. So I'm surprised the reaction actually worked this well. I mean, this is one of those rare times where chemistry just works out. Here's our technically fuming 37% hydrochloric acid obtained, and putting a pH strip in the neck, you can see how it instantly turns red upon exposure to the fumes. This indicates really strong acid, like seriously dangerous. Getting it in your eyes or on your skin would be catastrophic, so please wear PPE. Wait, don't even try this. And by the way, this was done in like 5-degree conditions, so at room temperature, there would be even more fumes. Now time for the final measurements. Transferring the solution into a graduated cylinder on a balance, you can see that 50 mils corresponds exactly to a mass of 59.29 grams, which gives us a density of 1.186. Comparing this to the literature value, it indeed corresponds well to around 37% hydrochloric acid. By the way, I obtained a total amount of 152 mils of solution, so that's like a 32 mil increase, all from the HCl gas. Now just to show how strong this is, I got a watch glass and onto it, I put on some pieces of zinc. Then pipetting some of our HCl onto it gives a very vigorous reaction, with lots of acid fumes released too. Remember, all of this was done in a fume hood. Acids reacting with metals are always a pretty cool demonstrations, one of my favorites. I can't imagine how this would react with like sodium or lithium. Now finally, to really end this video with a bang, I'm going to do one of our favorite reactions, the blue fire demonstration. So what I'm going to do is put some of our acid into a beaker and then dissolve some copper ions into it. Instantly, you can see how it turns a bright green. The finishing step is to chuck in some aluminium, a very reactive metal, and wow, now that was a pretty dazzling light show. Anyways, thank you so much for sticking till the end. But before you go, I also want to thank my patrons or supporters for helping me as a high school student, and I will provide behind the scenes, early access, shoutouts, and more. Just a couple of dollars goes a long way in helping this channel to continue providing quality and educational chemistry content. Anyways, I want to thank you again for watching till the end, and please consider clicking the subscribe button below.